Hello, welcome to Combat Chats. Today we're going to be talking about the upcoming UFC fighting card. It's UFC 274. Should be really exciting. We've got a lot of good fighters on there. A lot of big names. Really big card to be fair. Yeah, it should be really interesting. We've got on the main event we've got Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. We've then got Rosa Namajunas versus Carlos Esparza, Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson on the lightweight fight. And many other big fights, so it should be really interesting. Any thoughts of this card in particular?
Yeah, so getting right into the big one, we have Charles Oliveira kicking off the main event against Justin Gaethje. This is Gaethje's second crack at the lightweight title, which he seems very hungry to get this time. But before we get into this massive card, there is one certain fight I want to talk about last week, which was the main event where we saw Chito Vera put on, I think, one of the best performances of his career by far, really, because his defense, Rob Font, I think, threw like almost 300 significant strikes, and you saw Chito's face afterwards. Didn't have a mark on him, you know. So that fight was an interesting one. We saw Font get off to a really good start with the jab, opening up with boxing very early on. In my opinion, it started quite choppy for Vera. What do you think?
Oh, I definitely agree. I think Rob Font kicked off really well. Started the fight really well. Landing so many significant strikes and really peppering him. But I think you look at the strikes and whatnot. It wasn't a one-sided fight at all.
No,
it was an absolute
not.
war. It was really exciting fight to watch. And it's very exciting from both fighters, So, really good fight overall.
Do you know my thought on it? Is, I remember the first round and a half, I was thinking, because I predicted Chito Vera to win, I'm usually not biased towards any fighter, I just want to see a good fight, but Chito's definitely one of the guys that I hope wins every time he's out, because you can see how much he loves fighting when he's in there. You saw him taunting. I think there was a couple times where he could have got the finish, especially he landed that side kick in, I think it was the fourth or third round, straight to the face.
Lit him the fight.
Yeah, and I think from there he could have followed him down and finished that fight off, really, but you can see how much fun he was having in there. I love fighters like that.
Definitely so. I mean, it was a great opportunity for him to finish it there. And he gave him so much time on the floor, and he wasn't he wasn't as on it as he should have been.
So much time to recover he gave him.
But regardless, the decision went to him, and I mean, fair play. Yeah, he could have done it different, but what a show from both of them. Rob Font landing with significant strikes, Vera coming out on top. So fair play.
I just wanna know what was your favourite out of the three knockdowns? Because there was the left hook in the end of the second round that caught him. He looked like he was on ice. He was all over the place. And then there was the knee, the jumping knee, where he caught him right up the middle, clean, straight to the mouth. It was brutal. And then for me, the side kick was the top of the bunch, perfect, straight down the middle. With these taekwondo kicks in MMA, I feel like you can't see him coming as much, because that lead leg straight, when they use it straight as a side kick, or it was like a hook kick kind of side kick, I think MMA fighters and UFC fighters really struggle with that style still. It's not used much in the UFC.
Oh, definitely. So, it's not a style we see a lot occurring, and it's not something which a lot of them expect. It's a lot harder for them to read, maybe it's because of, them not having to experience it as much, not them coming across it as much. But I thought that the side kick was so clean.
Yeah,
the way it connected. Honestly, you saw him drop, the gradual drop.
Yeah, it's like slow motion the way he fell back on it.
Exactly. But Taekwondo is such an interesting discipline, and it's really good to see it being used in MMA. It's something which I think, is going to be used more and more often. And obviously, there's always been certain elements of it which have been used. But, the more it gets used, the more we can see it as an effective fighting style when it comes down to MMA, especially in these big tournaments, such as the UFC and whatnot. Maybe used a little bit more in other competitions, maybe something like one.
Yeah.
But we're not seeing it as much in UFC, and I think it's gonna start increasing, because we've got a lot of good fighters using styles such as Taekwondo and using more traditional martial arts. In contrast, and I mean a lot of them do produce some of those bigger knockdowns or some of those big upsets which we don't typically tend to see.
I mean, Holly Holm is a perfect example of using brilliant taekwondo or karate in that Ronda Rousey fight. It's one of the biggest upsets we've seen, and she caught her with the turning kick as she turned her back, and that was beautiful. Like, there's very few fighters who can use it. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was heavyweight champion in one championship, and he's like a massive guy, and you see him doing wheel kicks, spinning back kicks, and knocking guys out with this at heavyweight. So these kicks, the more they're used in MMA, the more I think it can entertain people, and the more fighters will be getting used to it. We've seen a lot of good spinning knockouts, but I think with the taekwondo it's a lot more sort of like wheel kicks and side kicks straight up the middle. We saw Wonderboy put on some clinics with the side kick before, but not a lot of fighters can use it really.
Oh, definitely so. I think, Wonderboy is an excellent example.
Yeah.
He's a very good fighter. He does do very well, and he does tend to use a lot of traditional martial art, martial art strikes, instead of your conventional, Western style boxing, which obviously, a lot of fighters, Muay Thai very prevalent in it.
Yeah.
It's one of the first disciplines which you learn when you go into MMA, but stuff like, Taekwondo and, traditional karate and all of that, I think that the impact that has when it comes down to, the performance of certain fighters, there are certain fighters which do so well because of fighting with these stars, and I think that, it's interesting because MMA, it's not a free sport. It's not just wrestling and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai.
Yes, you got to be good at all of it.
Exactly, and I think a lot of the best fighters, even stuff, which might not necessarily, look as it on paper as if, it's going to be, that significant in helping you out. Stuff like Anderson Silva as, capoeira.
Yeah, that's a great example.
You look at him, you don't think to yourself, I'm going to learn capoeira and become, a quality top MMA fighter.
It's never a martial art that. I mean, I like to train in a lot of different martial arts, and capoeira I know it's not a thing in these sorts of countries around here, but it's such an interesting sport.
Oh, definitely so, and I think that, yes, it's not, it's not, you're not going to be, learning, you're not going to be learning all of these strikes, but just stuff like the movement and whatnot.
Footwork,
but just the general movement of fighters, it's not that common that you see that. But the impact it has, whenever you watch a fighter and you notice that their movement's exceptional, and you put down something like capoeira, or, a martial art which you may not hear about as much, not because it's not a big martial art, but just because it's not something which is trained by the general populace of professional MMA fighters. You can always tell that there's something there. There are a lot of fighters in different parts of the world. It's very exciting to watch them fight because they fight in a very different way, in a very unique way, and these Western fighters are just not used to it.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the card. Do you know who I want to see Cheeto fight next? I would love to see him against Peter Yan. I think that's the fight to make. Cheeto Vera versus Peter Yan. That's a badass fight,
That would be very, very interesting. I mean, honestly, I think that would be it would be hard to determine who can't on top.
Peter's so good on the feet, man, and I feel like. Because he had his back taken so long in the second fight with Sterling, that people obviously MMA, you're only as good as your last fight, and us fans like to forget how good you are. But I think Peter Yan's a problem for everyone in that division. I think that belt will switch hands a few times, and in my opinion, I can see Cheeto Vera getting his hands on it at some point.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, it would be really, really quite interesting, fighting Aljamain Sterling, fighting, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, a very big one. I think that it would really be an interesting matchup, especially considering the difference between them two as fighters on an individual level.
Cheeto Vera is not going to be looking to hold Peter Yan down. He's going to want that would be an insane fight. So kicking off the main card this coming weekend, is Donald Cerrone against Joe Lazon, which this fight kind of reminds me of like I'd like to see him make like a league for like the older fighters, so they don't have to fight all these young and up and coming killers. Because I mean, we've seen Cerrone get mauled by a few people recently, so I'm glad that they're making fights like this now for these fighters, because Joe Lazon and Cerrone is a perfect matchup for this time in their careers, in my opinion. They're both on like, I mean, I don't want to sound harsh, but they're both towards the end of their career. Joe Lazon's last fight was I think it was against Peterson or someone, I can't remember the guy's name. But yeah, he looked great in his last fight. Cerrone hasn't looked so great, but I think these guys, it's a perfect time for them to fight each other. They're both going to be thinking they've got no title aspirations now. You know, they just want to fight because they love doing it. So yeah, kicking off the main card with that fight. I think going into it, in my opinion, I favour Joe Lazon. I think in their prime, I think I'd go Cerrone, but I think we've seen Cerrone slow down too much, and Joe Lazon looks so strong in his last performance that I think he'll be able to get the win in this one.
I mean, it should be a really interesting one. You know, Joe Lazon, legend of the game. You know, you watch his jiu-jitsu. Honestly,
so good.
He's like a spider.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way he moves, his agility, the way he climbs on you, the way he gets into these positions. You know, if Joe Lazon's got you into a lot, you know, there's been many fights in which his opponents, gotten into the early stage of that submission, and they're tapping because they know they're not getting out of that.
Yeah, early. Yeah.
And the way that he climbs and the way that he doesn't necessarily ragdoll you about, but your limbs, you have no control over your limbs. When he's on top of you, you know, some of the arm bars he's done, you know, he's performed some amazing arm bars.
You know, the thing about this fight is, I mean, I could get a bit of hate for this, but I actually don't see it playing out on the ground much, and I think, I mean, Joe Lazon is known for his excellent ground game and not so much for his striking, but I just got a feeling that the way to beat Cerrone now is pressure him early, start off quick, and I think Joe Lazon will be able to do that with the hands, to be honest, because we saw Moreno beat Cerrone early on with the hands, and I mean, Joe Lazon's had some good performances striking. We saw him beat Diego Sanchez, Jens Pulver in his debut. That was a massive win for Joe Lazon, knocking out Jens Pulver. So yeah, I've actually got a feeling he's going to knock him out standing.
I feel like, going into this fight, Joe Lazon is going to be definitely trying to, fight standing up. He's came out in a statement saying that he's going to try and blitz him early on. This could be his last fight. He's came out and said that this could potentially be his last fight.
I think it could be the last fight for both.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. They're both getting on there. Joe Lazon's 37. Donald Cerrone, he's also getting up there. It's very
probably
similar
around
age.
the same age. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but
they would be very similar ages.
Yeah.
But I think Joe Lazon's really going to go for it. I think what he needs to do this fight is put pressure on Cerrone. Cerrone's a bit older, they're both older fighters, to be fair.
But I feel like
Cerrone, I think that if you look at his previous fights, he's not done so well. He's not coming off of loads of wins. He's fought some good fighters.
Yeah. He's always fought the best,
world class fighters, and he's fought some very young and informed fighters. So fighting another fighter who hasn't fought since 2019.
Yeah,
he's also quite old. It should be interesting, but I think Joe Lazon just applies that pressure, gets in early. Uses his striking. Yes, you say he's good for his ground game, but he's also good at striking.
The thing is,
he's not known for it as much. I think that he could really do Cerrone in.
I'm not saying that I think Joe Lazon's a better striker than Donald Cerrone, because I mean, simply I don't think that. But I just think no. But I think at this point in their careers, it's not going to be great technique that gets Joe Lazon the win. It's going to be pressure early, big punches early on, and I think Cerrone's been a slow starter for a while now, so we'll go with Joe Lazon on that one. Do you agree?
I would say so. I mean, it could go either way, if I'm honest with you. Joe Lazon, yes, I think that he's going to want to, with him, saying it's going to be his last fight, or with him, really heading towards it. I mean, he said it's going to be his last fight.
Has he said that in an interview? Has he?
He has. With him saying that, I think he is going to try and go out, with a finish, and he has said that he wants to blitz him early on. So I imagine he is going to go for it. But regardless, I think Cerrone, also has it in him, and I mean, we don't know what Joe Lazon's going to be like.
Out.
We don't know what it's going to be like after 5 to 4 years.
Yeah. Is it Yeah, Jesus, yeah.
Yeah.
So
3 years even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
3 years, 4 years, you know what I mean?
yeah.
A very long time regardless.
Oh man, that time goes too quick in this sport. I remember watching that. But so next up on the main card, what have we got?
So next up, there's a light heavyweight bout. It's going to be between Mauricio Roa versus Ovince St. Preux. Should be interesting, you know. Ovince St. Preux has a record of 25-16, with Mauricio Roa having 27 wins, 12 losses. And I believe that's either a draw or no contact. I can't think off the top of my head. Both very old fighters, and both weighing the exact same.
How old are they now? 40s?
Mauricio is 40. Ovens is 39. You know, so very, very
older
old fighters.
Older than the Cerrone. Talking of the Legends League, this is another one for it.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, it should be an interesting fight. You know, I mean, Ovens, you know, he had it last time.
But yeah, we're both about to say but I do feel like the Shogun couldn't get going in that. I mean, it was so quick. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember it being, I think, inside the first minute and a half. So I think we will see a different fight this time. To be honest, this one on the main card is the least one I'm confident in making a pick about, because Shogun's actually not done too bad recently. I mean, I think he's only lost to Paul Craig and Anthony Smith out of his last 6 or something like that. So yeah, I think I'm leaning Shogun. I mean, if MMA fans don't know, they should go watch Shogun in Pride, because I think he was undefeated in Pride. He fought so many killers, and honestly was one of the best fighters of all time if you look at that for performance wise. But obviously he's dropped off. He's got a few more losses in his UFC career. But if you're going off Pride, I think he's top 3 best fighters ever who's competing in Pride, because we saw him just tear through Kevin Randleman, Rampage Jackson. If people haven't seen the Kevin Randleman fight, he tears his knee and his ankle in like 6 different places. He rips it apart. So Shogun's a true legend of this sport, and obviously OSB is too. He's fought John Jones for the title in a competitive fight. He's knocked out a lot of good fighters. I think Corey Anderson maybe. He's had some really good performances as well. So I'm excited for this one.
I mean, it should be really interesting. You know, OSP, you know, didn't fight so long ago, back in 2021.
Was that a heavyweight? Was that Ben Rothwell's last one?
I don't believe so. I believe his last fight, if I am correct, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, it might have been Ben Rothwell. I'm not too confident if it was.
Because I remember he went to heavyweight and fought like the biggest guy at heavyweight possible. So yeah.
So Ben Rothwell, that was back in 2020.
What was it? Pull that up.
So
Tanner Boser. Oh yeah, I remember.
Game versus Volkov fight night, you know, 190 in June 2021, and then before that he lost to Jamal Hill.
Yeah.
You know, so
I love that kid. Jamal Hill's a killer.
Yeah, to be fair. But yeah, so you know, he's not one of his last 2 fights, but regardless, you know, he has been fighting consistently. We look at Rua, you know, it's his last fight.
Off the top of my head, his last one. Rua, maybe Paul Craig, or
it was Paul Craig.
Yeah, Paul Craig.
Back in November 2020.
Big Paul Craig fans over here, all of us. Pulled off some amazing submissions in his career so far.
Oh, definitely so. And he lost 2 submissions, funny enough, by Paul Craig, you know. But you know,
I think they had a draw before as well. I think they fought to a draw.
It was a draw. You know, that was back in 2019. You know, looking at him here, you know, his past 4 fights, you know, he's had 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. Not as bad, but he hasn't fought as recently. Both old guys. Not sure how it's going to go. OSP did him in pretty early last round. Whether he's going to be able to, you know, sustain, you know, the power in which he was. You know,
OSP still hits so hard too.
Still hits hard.
He had a knockout. He had a knockout a few fights ago against Manfield, and obviously we over in the UK, it's not easy to stay up and watch these UFC cards. But I remember we had a few friends around, and someone was saying, "Oh, where is OSP finally done, man?" And as soon as he said it, he catches him with that lead hook and knocks out Manifield. And again, so they've both beat good. Or I mean, Shogun drew with Paul Craig, but they both competed with the younger fighters. I mean, OSP isn't looking as fresh, but so I think I'm not confident about making a pick. But I think going on record and recent fights, I think the smart one would be Shogun, and I'm just going to do it because, you know, it's Shogun. I love Shogun, who a man.
I mean, it's going to be hard to make a pick as well, but I think that OSP, I think that the way he hits, I mean, Shogun, I don't think it's going to be easy. It's not going to be a minute or two or wherever it was last fight.
Go a bit longer.
It's going to go much longer, but I just think, with the age, with him not fighting as long, OSP's, he's got a little bit more, he's been fighting a tad more consistently. I think that he's just going to edge it, I think it's, I'm not sure, what's going to be exactly, but I can see a potential TKO or maybe a decision.
It's a hard one to call.
Next 3 fights, really interesting.
Getting into it now.
Next fight after that is Michael Chandler vs Tony Ferguson. Really exciting fight. Both really good fighters. Big fan of Tony Ferguson. You don't know how he fights.
No
one does.
Knows. Yeah, no one knows.
It's not something which you can put a label on.
I think the only thing you can guarantee with Tony Ferguson is high pace. Other than that, no one knows what he's going to do.
High pace, insanity, and unreadable. You don't know what he's doing with his arms.
I mean,
what he's doing with his legs, his limbs. He's everywhere. And you can't foresee it.
Yeah, I was watching the BT breakdown show, and Michael Bisping said it best, in my opinion, because in this fight, Tony's going to be so hungry. He's lost his last 3, all against great competition. I think it was Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, who's the champion now, obviously, and Beneil Dariush. So, I mean, they're all in the top 5 still. So, Tony, I mean, I think people are rushing to say he's completely washed up, but you can clearly see a decrease in the pace that he fights at. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely so. I mean, his past 3 fights, as you said, particularly with, Oliveira, champion, and Justin Gaethje, I don't think you can necessarily look at those 2 fights and feel yourself wash up.
No.
Because competition like that, if you're losing to fights like that, it doesn't make you washed up.
No.
It means that you lost to, a world champion and, Justin Gaethje.
Who again was an interim champion, fought Khabib, fighting Charles Oliveira in the main event this weekend. So it could be the future champion in the same night. So. To say Tony's washed up in my head's crazy, but I think where people get that from is the way he's lost that. In my opinion, you could make a perfect case for him losing every round in those fights. If you're going to be honest, you maybe could give him the second round in the Gaethje fight because he knocked him down at the end, but probably not. That's a reach, you know what I mean?
Probably not. I mean, it should be interesting, really. I'm looking forward to this, I think that Tony Ferguson, I think he's going to impress. He hasn't fought for a year. He fought May 15th.
I think he needed the time off too, to be fair.
To be fair, it was very demanding. He last fought, May 15th. He'll be fighting again this weekend. So, literally just slightly less than a year later.
Yeah.
So, you can come back, after a year, you can come back rejuvenated.
But can you be rejuvenated at 38 years of age? That's the question. After the amount of damage he has took in his career is I'm not hating on Tony Ferguson, but there's not many fighters who take that much damage and compete with the top 5, top 10 anymore. You don't see it much. And that Justin Gaethje fight was painful to watch in a way, with how much punishment he took.
Of course. I mean, I think it is going to be challenging. You said he's an old guy, 38 years of age. He's taken a lot of damage, but I think the way he's going to go into this fight. I mean, a year is a long time. Obviously, your body does start breaking down. You get older. We've got a lot of older fighters on this card, by the way. Yeah. A lot of old fighters.
I'm excited as ever for it still. This is so cool for me.
Of course. But I just think, that year off, I think he would have had time to, recover. I think he would have had time to train, refresh a little bit. And I honestly, genuinely think he's going to come back so much, not better than beforehand, because, yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard. You're not going to
improve at this point.
You're not going to be. He's not going to be going out to the prime, this fight.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to come back in the form in which he should be fighting at. I think he's going to come back in a much better form than when he was last fighting, and I think he's really going to put on a show. And I want to see, I want to see a lot of what you think when you think of Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean?
Extra crazy.
Said. Not movement which you just don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? He's not the kind of person you want to fight because you don't really have an idea of what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's hard to fight against. But
But going into Chandler more, I think when this fight got announced straight away, I was a bit like, this is the worst possible matchup for Tony, like, because it was a logical matchup for Tony Ferguson, but in my head it was the worst logical matchup for Tony Ferguson because, I mean, you saw Chandler lose, he's lost his last two against common opponents in Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje too, so and those fights were as competitive as you can get in a fight. I mean, he went the distance with Justin Gaethje, and I think it got Fight of the Year. It was a bloodbath. It was insane, and he was seconds away from finishing Charles Oliveira in that first round. And I think why I say it's the worst logical matchup for Tony is because Chandler is so explosive and he starts so fast, and Tony taking so much time off and having taken so much damage. I think the early parts of the fight are going to be so dicey for him. I actually do.
I mean, it's gonna be difficult because Chandler, you know, he's not there's no real talk of Chandler being washed out.
No.
I mean, like it's just not a thing, you know.
He's competing with the best in the most exciting fights.
I mean, he's fighting a lot at the moment. You know, he doesn't really look like he's slowing down at all.
Mm-mm.
You know, in space of a year, he had 3 fights.
3 fights. I mean, obviously the win against Dan Hooker, I think, was his first one.
It was, yes.
And he got that done very quickly, but he got knocked out quite badly against Oliveira, and a person of his age, you say, can you come back the same from a knockout like that? And then he comes back and takes everything Justin Gaethje can throw at him. He eats the cleanest punches Gaethje has to offer. Chandler ate on the chin and kept going and kept going. He was taunting him in the third round after. You couldn't even recognise him, and he was taunting and laughing. He loves to fight, and I think this one will be another bloodbath, because although I said I was worried about it when it gets matched up, the closer this fight gets, the more chance in my head I'm giving Tony, because this is a fight he will thrive in, because someone who's going to stand with him and bring it early and really give Tony a chance to wear him out and do what Tony Ferguson does. But that being said, I'm going to say Chandler, and it's hard, man, because Tony obviously doesn't get finished, but after all the damage and the age, I think this could be a second round TKO. That's what I'm going for.
I mean, it should be interesting, you know. I mean, I think Michael Chandler is going to come out on top, you know. Obviously, he's been fighting a lot more consistently. He's in generally okay form. But, you know, what I'm looking forward to more than anything else is just the performance they're going to put on. You look at Michael Chandler, the way he fights, he just loves putting on a show.
Yeah.
The way he fights, you know, for him, it's obviously, you know, the winning and whatnot, you know, yes, it's key, but he just wants to put on a show and he just wants to entertain.
I also think in a fight like this, that could be his downfall with Tony Ferguson, because he could get drawn into that, and that's what Tony wants.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, it's not as if, you know, Michael Chandler's never lost through doing this.
Yeah, he's lost plenty of times through doing it.
But I think regardless, you know, I think, yes, he's going to come out on top. I think, you know, with a fighter like, you know, Tony Ferguson, you know, the way he fights, stand-up, you know, it's going to be a great stand-up fight.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really, really exciting stand-up fight. But I think that, you know, Michael Chandler's just going to come out on top. You know, I think Tony Ferguson, I think he's going to perform. I think he's going to do well.
I think he's
Michael
going
Chandler's
to be
just
much
going
better.
to top it just by, you know, having that, you know, bit more consistency.
Yeah.
Just by being not necessarily fresher, but just by being a bit more, you know.
I think that's fair to say. I think he's looks like the fresher guy coming into this one. I think that's a good thing to say.
Of course.
Up next,
the next fight is also an exciting one. All exciting fights on the main card.
So for me, this is my favourite fighter on the roster fight next.
Going to be the co-main, which is the women's shortweight between Rose Namajunas and Carla Espada. Both really, really top fighters.
I mean, I'll get into Carla Esparza first of all, because she is on an absolute tear. I think her last fight maybe was Yan Xiaonan, which I think she was undefeated at the time, and I think she even got the finish in the later rounds. Am I right about that?
I believe you were TKO through punches. Yeah.
Was that in the third round?
I was in the second round.
In the second round. Crucifix there, if I remember correctly. And then she beat Marina Rodriguez again. Marina's only loss. I think she got Female Fighter of the Year. The year after that, she's the number one contender in the same division now. So Carla is like still at the top of this division. Like it's crazy to think. I think they fought Rose and Carla. I think fought 2013 or 14, and Carla won rear naked choke. And to think these two are still the two best fighters in this division, arguably, is amazing to see, in my opinion. So Carla has so many interesting threats in this fight. We've seen Rose struggle with wrestling, even though she's got excellent jiu-jitsu. So I think Carla's going to have her moments in this fight. I think she'll cause some real problems. What about you?
I think it's going to be a really exciting fight. I think, Carla at the moment, absolutely tearing up. 5 wins in a row. Someone who can go the distance. Past 5 fights, 4 of them have been, decisions. Split decisions, majority decisions, unanimous decisions. All against, good opponents. Michelle Waterson, Alexa Grasso, so really, really good opponents. And I think it should be really, really interesting, I think, especially against a fight like Rose as well, it's a good test.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the really best test. It's the best test.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, Rose, in my opinion, has a strong case for saying she's... I think it's a bit outrageous saying that, because Shevchenko, in my opinion, is the best female fighter on the planet. But, Rose has a claim to that, because the way she moves, the way she boxes, her jiu-jitsu, she's got everything as a martial artist, and Carla's going to have to get involved with every single bit of that on Saturday night.
I think it's going to be challenging, because when you have to fight against that many variables, that many inputs, being put out by, or should I say outputs being put out by Rose, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be challenging to keep up with all of it all, because it's just so varied. It's continuous.
So many weapons.
So many weapons constantly, where, stuff like, I think that you look at Rose, her last 3 fights, Jessica Andrade, very good fighter.
The rematch.
Very, very good fighter. Weili Zhang, past 2 fights, also really, really good, Zhang, amazing fighter.
Yeah, Zhang.
Tough as anything, I mean?
That's why I said arguably the best 2 fights in the division, because Zhang is elite level. She is so good. That second fight with Rose, obviously the first one, Rose with that amazing head kick in the first round, but that second fight, it was as close as it gets. Rose nicked it with that 5th round, obviously taking her down and controlling a lot of the fight from there.
So clever.
Yeah, that was so important that she did that. So important. It just shows how far mentally she's come in MMA as well, because that's always been a problem for Rose.
It's important, because I think a lot of fighters could, definitely do that. A bit of fighting intelligence, not necessarily fighting intelligence, but intelligence when it comes down to making sure that you're doing the right things to be getting the score. That taking him down in that round, that was so significant to the outcome of the fight.
Yeah, that won her the fight, in my opinion.
It did win her the fight. And,
still close, still very close.
Oh, yeah, of course, very close, but that just topped it.
Yeah.
And that's what you need from fighters who know what they're doing. It's not always necessarily the most entertaining thing to watch. Definitely not. But, watching that level of intelligence, knowing to do the right thing, to have a corner like that as well.
Yeah,
to tell you to, the instruction.
The best team in the game, in my opinion, with Trevor Whitman, Justin Gaethje, Kamaru Usman. Them 4 as a quadruple is just, you think about that, and you can't get a meaner team in MMA than Justin Gaethje, Rose Namajunas, and Kamaru Usman. Imagine what happens in the training room with those guys.
Honestly, it must be absolutely insane, the level of drilling, you know what I mean? Yeah. But no, to have a team like that, that's
how much
what
it motivate you.
Exactly, how much it motivate you, how much you could feed off each other. It's amazing, really, and how much you can see that. As far as they've probably developed to the stages they are because of each other, because they've been working alongside each other, helping out each other with different disciplines, helping out each other with the different fight tactics, and just the knowledge and experience they all have.
And they're all so used to being in deep water in their careers as well. They can learn so much of each other, because we've seen, every fight Gaethje has is a fight where he has to dig deep and go through a trench to get out the other side, you know what I mean?
Absolute warrior.
And we've seen, obviously, talking about Rose, her whole career has been an emotional roller coaster with ups and downs. We've seen her lose her first title fight, then we saw her lose the title to Jessica Andrade. We saw her pull off a massive upset when she knocked out Joanna, and then she knocked out Weili Zhang in the first minute with the head kick. Rose has been through everything there is to go through in MMA.
Definitely not steady at all. At all. lots of bumps in the road. You can tell it's really shaped as a character.
And I think that's what's made her the best in the world. Is just because there's nothing that can happen to her at this point in her career that she hasn't seen. You know what I mean? So saying that, going into this fight, I do think people are overlooking Carla Esparza. I think she's so strong for that. I think it's 115 their weight class, and she is unbelievably strong for that weight. We've seen her hold down Marina, who's on a tear, Zhang Yonan, who's one of the best strikers in the division. But I am still leaning Rose in this one. I do think Carla can win and pull off a massive upset, but I think Rose is going to keep moving. She's got to keep moving, keep the jab out. Can't let Carla Esparza pin her down in any place. So I think if I had to go, I'll go Rose by TKO in the 4th round.
Honestly, I think it's going to be a really interesting one. Rose had lost to Carla Esparza, as you said previously. That was Rose's first UFC fight.
That was coming off the Ultimate Fight for them, I'm pretty sure. So
it was a finale.
Yeah. So that was the first title fight ever for that weight class. So the story for this fight is amazing. Like, after the division, obviously there's been a lot of different champions in this division, and for it all to circle back round to Carla and Rose, I cannot wait for that fight this weekend.
I mean, it should be really, really interesting. I think that obviously they would have both came a massive way since then.
Yeah. It's a completely different fight.
100%. And as you said, the way it's circled around is just amazing. I think that it's going to have somewhat of an impact on Rose. I think it just would. To have that in your brain. To have the career you have, to have the roller coaster, the ups and downs, and for it to all circle back when you're both tearing it up.
It's a lot of pressure.
Both coming off a fight. But honestly, I think that the way that Rose has developed, I think the way they both developed, I think that Rose is going to try and keep that momentum. I think she's really going to go for it. I can't see a submission from Esparza. I can't necessarily see a TKO either.
Really?
I think it's going to go for a decision.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was just.
And I think it's going to be a really exciting fight to watch. I think it's going to be a bit of bit of a war. There's going to be a bit of work on the ground and that, but for the most part, it's going to go the distance. It's going to be a really, really good fight. Yeah. Hard to pick a winner, but I'm going to go with Rose just because I want to.
Nice. Right, so last but not least, the main event in the lightweight division.
Main event, exciting as all of them. It's going to be Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. Charles Oliveira, champion.
Yeah.
Versus Justin Gaethje, looking to get that championship. It should be really, really interesting. Both really good fighters. Justin Gaethje, as mentioned earlier on, as part of a team with Rose, as well as a few other, Kamaru Usman, you can't forget about him.
Pound for pound number one.
And it should be really interesting,
So I'll kick this one off, and I'll go into Charles Oliveira. And talking about ups and downs in their career and roller coasters like Rose has had, Charles Oliveira is been through maybe even more, because he's been submitted even though he's known to be the best guy on the ground. So that plays on you mentally. He's been knocked out. He's I don't want to say quit, but people have made him give up as well. Like, Charles Oliveira has come so far since fighting down at featherweight, where he was losing to Pettis. Well, I don't know if he lost to Pettis at featherweight, but since he's been losing to Pettis in his last loss in Felder, we've seen him on, I think, must be like a 10-fight win streak or something crazy like that. And honestly, on a tear, submitted Poirier, knocked out Chandler. This fight's going to be insane, and I can't wait for it.
I mean, it should be a really, really exciting fight. He has been absolutely tearing up in the lightweight division.
How many fights is it in a row?
In a row?
Yeah.
God, must be a solid, I reckon, 10, 11.
Yeah,
I reckon 11. But honestly, he's been absolutely smashing, all big fighters as well, Poirier, Chandler, Ferguson, Kevin Lee, Jared Gordon, really...
Nick Lenz as well. They've had some class fights over the time.
Honestly, really, really challenging fights, and he's been smashing it, and I mean, he's very versatile, whether it be, through winning through, the TKO or the submission, jiu-jitsu,
He's come so far in every aspect of the game.
Definitely so. And I think it's going to be interesting, as technically, such a good fighter.
I think even people are saying I mean, Gaethje said it himself. I think sometimes I hear Justin Gaethje talk. I love Gaethje, and he's one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC. But I hear him talk sometimes, and I wonder what he gets where he's coming from, because he's saying Oliveira doesn't want nothing on the feet with him, and he'll make him go through hell just like he made Khabib go through hell. And I mean, he landed some good low kicks, had a good first round against Khabib. I think the judges gave it to Gaethje, but I thought Khabib won the first round. But he didn't put Khabib through hell, and I think being that overconfident that, I mean, Oliveira holds as much threat on the feet as anyone in that division, in my opinion. He's got amazing kicks, solid boxing, great Muay Thai. I think Gaethje needs to be careful he's not overlooking Oliveira here.
I mean, it's important to remember, like, at the end of the day, yes, he's got some very good jiu-jitsu. It's apparent the amount of, submissions he's performed. I think it's something like 20 in total. All varied as well. Stuff like guillotines, just a real variety, rear naked chokes.
He'll get you from anywhere.
Exactly. But I think it's important to bear in mind. He's also got 9 knockouts /TKOs, and honestly, like,
for a jiu-jitsu guy, apparently, he's no jiu-jitsu guy, he's an MMA fighter.
Exactly. Michael Chandler, TKO.
Yeah.
That's not an easy TKO.
And
that's not.
I've heard Gaethje say he's a quitter, and I mean, when I was giving my breakdown of him, I said people have made him quit, but to say Charles Oliveira is a quitter is absolutely mental. I mean, against Poirier, one of the hardest hitters in the division, he took bombs in the first round, came back and wins by submission. The first round against Chandler, again, he ate so many big punches. Like, that could have, if you were a quitter, you would have chucked the towel in and gave up at that point for Oliveira.
Oh, 100%. If you were a real quitter, you would have just been done.
Because Chandler was all over him in that first round, and he had Chandler's back, and when Chandler got out of that, imagine how that would make you feel during the fight if you're Oliveira, and Chandler reverses him, gets round, starts beating him from top mount after. Oliveira had his back for a good while in that fight and couldn't submit him, and he stayed in there mentally, came back in the second round and won by knockout. So for this one, I'm going to go with I think Justin, Charles struggles with big hitters. He doesn't move his head a lot, so I think it's going to, again, like the Chandler fight, it's going to be dodgy early on. I think Justin will hurt him early, get a bit overconfident, tire a little bit, but I think it will end in Charles taking his back and winning by rear naked choke.
I mean, it should be an interesting one. I think that, Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, the way he hits, hits very hard. It's a division of lightweights. There aren't many fighters which are sustaining the continuous torment which Gaethje can dish out exactly. Yeah. And I think that that's going to be challenging for Oliveira. I mean, it should be really hard because it should be really hard for Oliveira. Obviously, he's very good at jiu-jitsu. He's not bad at stand-up. Whether he'll be able to, do what he wants to, Gaethje, I don't know what his game plan's going to be. No one.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. I saw this dodgy video on Twitter, right? And it was Oliveira getting ready for the Gaethje fight, and he was in the pocket slugging it out with one of his training partners, blow for blow. And I was thinking, are you really sure you want to be doing that with Justin Gaethje? Probably
not the best idea. No, that's not the fight you want to be trying to make.
But I think on the feet he does very well still, in my opinion. I think he'll keep his distance, land a lot of. I mean, we haven't even spoke about Justin Gaethje's leg kicks, but I think Oliveira will land a lot of front kicks to the body. I mean, we've seen him front kick many people in the face as well. He's got a lot of dangerous kicks, good boxing. I mean, we saw his elbows in the Poirier fight. So I think the stand-up will be close with Oliveira getting hurt, and that's why I'm going Oliveira, is because I think he'll withstand Justin's early punishment, and then I think he'll find an opportunity to win later on.
I think I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Oliveira. I think that the fight itself, I think that Justin Gaethje is really going to be piling the pressure. Big strikes. Definitely. I think that Oliveira, he's going to be clever about it. I don't think he's going to be going in. I don't think he's going to be slugging it out.
No.
Because it's clear that, I imagine it's clear to him that, it's not going to
end
well for him, most likely. But I think that the way he's going to fight clever. He's going to make sure he's keeping distance. You know, he might go for a bit of a takedown, wherever it is. Whether he'll commit to it or not, you know, I'm not too sure, because obviously, you know, regardless, you know, yeah, Gaethje's not known for his jiu-jitsu as much as he is striking, you know, but regardless, you know, you don't want to be on the ground with him, because the moment he's on top of you,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, the way he hits.
Or on bottom is. I mean.
Anywhere really,
Yeah.
he throws bombs, no matter where he is.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about Oliveira for a second.
No,
Yeah,
but
Gaethje. Yeah, you don't want to be on the bottom of Gaethje if he's throwing those bombs down, because he can knock you out from anywhere.
But saying that, regardless, you know, I think Oliveira is going to play it clever. I think Gaethje's going to, you know, go in fast and hard. He's going to want that title.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to want it. You know, in his eyes, he deserves it. He believes he's a better fighter.
Yeah, Gaethje has been chasing it a long time too, so he is going to want to take that one, isn't he?
But as far as the prediction is concerned, I'm going to go Charles Oliveira. I'm going to go decision. I reckon he's going to go the full way. Honestly, I think it's
really?
I
Fair
think
play.
it's going to be a bit of a battle. I don't think it's going to be, you know, I don't think it's going to be a pretty fight. You know, but I think it's going to go a full way, and I think Olivia's just going to edge it.
I'd love to see it go the distance. That'd be so fun.
But anyway, yeah. So as far as, you know, the fights on the main card are concerned, that's all we're going to have time for today. Just before we finish up, let's go through the preliminary early prelims, and we'll go for some quick fire predictions.
Okay.
So for the welterweight fight in the preliminary card, we've got Randy Brown versus Callum Williams.
I'm gonna go Chaos, because you know he hits so hard. I love that kid.
I agree. Welterweight, we got Francisco Trinaldo versus Danny Roberts.
I would usually go with Trinaldo, but I'm gonna say Danny Roberts because he's English.
Why not?
Yeah.
Danny Roberts, gotta go for it. Macy Chatton, Ultimate Fighter, is that right?
Yeah. I think pretty sure. Yeah. She was.
Most recent season, I think. Yeah.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Might be a season, might be 2 seasons ago. You know, fresh off it versus Norma Dumont.
I'm gonna go Dumont because if I remember correctly, she's doing all right at the moment. I'm not sure.
7-1-0. Yeah, so not too bad. Blagoy Ivanov versus Marcos Rogério Dilima.
I'm gonna go with Ivanov because I love Ivanov. He's a great grappler, heavy guy. So yeah, I'll go with Ivanov.
Ivanov too, absolutely massive. Andre Fiallo versus Cameron Van Camp.
I'm not too sure on these guys, but I'll go Van Camp. Why not?
I like Van Camp's visual.
Yeah, let's go.
Tracy Cortez versus Melissa Grasso. Final fight, woman flyweight.
I'm gonna go Grasso because I like her, but I don't know if I think she's gonna win.
I don't know, I'm going to go Tracy Cortez.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's mix it up a little bit. Anyway, thank you very much for this Combine Shatters. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
We had a lot of fun.
It was a great episode,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
Had a great discussion. Really looking forward to this card this weekend, honestly. It had a lot of potential to be a very, very good card, you know. All the UFC cards, or not all of them, but most of them nowadays
90% blow up.
So good.
Even the ones in the last few weeks, like, have been really good.
Oh, 100%. You know, we saw the men's fight last week.
Yeah.
You know, well, a few.
Yeah.
But anyway, So anyway, thank you very much for listening. This is Combine Shatters. If you can, you know, like, subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, follow us, and yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.